easily one of the most iconic CDs ever released by a male seiyuu, From Fairytale by Makoto Furukawa is a delight for any fan of good music and especially of jazz music. In this episode, let's talk about Makoto Furukawa's iconic From Fairytale. Let's kick off this episode of SEIYUU Lounge. Welcome to SEIYUU Lounge. I am your host Vanessa, and today we are going to talk about Makoto Furukawa's From Fairytale. So it is time to put aside any scripts that I may have, and let's talk about this marvel of an album that basically arrived not unannounced, but it arrived in a way that many people were not expecting. From Fairytale by Makoto Furukawa was released in 2020 in December. The CD was released in the same day as Soma Saito's iconic In Bloom. So the 23rd of December 2020 was a day of two iconic albums, From Fairytale by Makoto Furukawa and In Bloom by Soma Saito. These, of course, made it so that that month was and still is considered quite iconic in terms of the quality, the sheer raw quality of music that was released back then. In case you do not know, I'm a massive fan of Makoto Furukawa. If I had to say, if basically Soma Saito was not active as a solo artist, Makoto Furukawa would be my favorite seiyuu artist. So it is an understatement to say that I am a fan of the music that he creates. I really enjoy it a whole lot, and I do listen to it quite frequently. So Makoto Furukawa, in case you do not know, is a voice actor that made a solo debut a couple of years ago, and since Miserable Masquerade he has been impressing everyone with what is exactly the very first time a male seiyuu ever decides to perform jazz music. And this is as risky as it can get because jazz music is considered extremely technical. And that technicality comes with a cost. If the seiyuu does not know how to sing, jazz music can't save you. Jazz music doesn't have many things going on that help the voice stand out, and as a matter of fact, jazz music by itself is the standout thing. So the voice is only an add-on to jazz music and not necessarily the spotlight. For jazz music, the voice needs to be really good to carry a song forward instead of letting the music do that for them. And in this case, Makoto Furukawa was tackling a music genre that no one else in the music industry, at least among male seiyuu, was doing, which is to perform jazz music exclusively, which is risky as hell, but it really ended up faring really well doing so. As I look at this CD right now in my hand, of course you are not watching this because this is not a viewable episode. I do remember getting these, and this was basically alongside In Bloom by Soma Saito. Those two CDs were my Christmas present to myself, and I was quite excited about it because I do love jazz music a whole lot. As I have been growing older, jazz music is making more and more sense to me. I do not know why, but I feel like the relaxing tone and even among the crazy things that happen in jazz music, because jazz music is quite unpredictable, I do find myself quite relaxed and having a lot of fun with the music. In this case, Makoto Furukawa leads the way. He sings for most of the songs in the CD. He of course doesn't sing in overture and he doesn't sing in interlude. But those songs, of course, make sense not being sung. Overture is the opening of that book. The passing of the pages is basically one of the things that helps basically set the tone for this song, as you all of a sudden start to listen or notice in the background a kind of an orchestra playing, and you are almost as welcomed to this fairy tale that will unfold as that person that is reading the book and basically passing the pages is experiencing. And as you get into that book, the sound gets closer to you as if you are being immersed in this CD. I do love that touch a whole lot, because you have that cinematic feel listening to someone basically flipping the pages on a book. You are getting closer and closer to the music, and that music is almost like a waltz. It is really refined, it really is grandiose, but elegant at the same time, and it welcomes you to that ball, to that fairy tale that will unfold in front of you. I do love that. It is one of the most iconic, for me at least, entrances to an album. It is an intro that is well done, and it really helps setting the tone for what awaits you, because this album does have a lot awaiting you. Of course, you then are welcomed by Makoto Fairytale, one of the craziest and fastest songs in Makoto Furukawa's repertoire. This is a bebop jazz type of song. It is crazy fast and crazy as a whole, with its bass line that is pounding all over the place. The drums are crazy, the piano never stops. It is relentless, that instrumental, and Makoto Furukawa keeps up the pace really, really well. The music video I remember being really stylish, and I do enjoy it a whole lot. I do enjoy as well the story that Makoto Furukawa created here, one of a battle of the classes in some way, and showing different perspectives of the same scene, which is kind of interesting, and showing at the same time how decadent can people be. So it is really interesting lyrics-wise as well, or storytelling-wise, as well as instrumental-wise. The song carries over to Dokeshi to Sadness. It is another really good jazz tune, and in this case this is a 6/4 beat-led tune, which is ridiculously technical. On the drums, I still wonder how can a jazz drummer play such a beat and never miss a beat, really. It is crazy technical when it comes to the drums, and it does have a really interesting mix of alluring and classy or elegant sides to itself. So it's not necessarily the kind of jazz song that is made for you to forget everything and really just go crazy with the beat. It is a song that has its elegance, and at the same time it can be alluring, and Makoto Furukawa makes sure it is alluring on the vocal end. But not only that, but you have an awesome saxophone and cello combo going on in there, alongside a really punchy bass line that I do love a whole lot. If you know me by now, you will be aware that I love a really good bass line. The punchier, the better for me. So this is really one of those songs that really got me, and I still love it a whole lot. The fact that the casino elements or the casino concept is underneath it makes it all the more interesting. Then of course we have Miserable Masquerade. This is the very first song that Makoto Furukawa released as a solo artist, and still to this day is one of the most iconic, by a male seiyuu of course, and one of the most interesting and engaging songs he can perform, or even that you can press play and listen to. This intro to the CD, which is to say, Mosaic to Fairytale, Dokeshi to Sadness, and Miserable Masquerade, make it the beginning of this CD so high tension, so fast paced. It is crazy how much energy you get in this part specifically. When you get closer to the middle of the CD or the intermission of the CD, you will be pretty much drained of all your energy, because this CD is relentless in its energy. It keeps up the pace, it is fast as hell, and so much fun. Miserable Masquerade gets a slight rearrangement in this CD. This is not necessarily the original version per se. I believe there are some changes made to it, but those are really minimal. And really, besides the intro, I believe not much has changed to this song. I love it a whole lot. This is a classic jazz tune with a lot of work on the trombones and trumpet, so I do love it a whole lot. And of course, if you are big on your bass lines, this song has a double bass playing in the background, which is a treat. Then things start to calm down a little bit, and you go to Spica, which is a Latin jazz type of song. It has a lot of influences by salsa and of course jazz. It is a blend of both. And it is really the type of song that you would deem sexy. But it is not the type of dirty sexy, it is the type of classy sexy. And you do have everything flowing in a really laid-back way. The sound is more, it breathes a little bit. The sound is not as close to you as in other songs, and you have much more on your soundscape to enjoy and to look at and simply take in the good vibes and the beautiful soundscape. The piano, of course, is a big feature in this song. I do enjoy it a whole lot. And you do have a piano solo in this song, and it is such a treat to have a simplistic part, but so fancy that adds a lot to the composition and makes it, in a way, all that tension culminate in a beautiful moment that leaves a mark. Then you go through a point in which you start noticing that, well, this CD is taking an interesting turn. Because you then have Chizuganakute Momodoru Kara, which is a ballad. And this one is really slow, really subtle in its approach to the music. And it is a song in which Furukawa's vibrato vocals get the full spotlight to themselves. It is the kind of song that you would deem instantly melancholic, because it is. And it's more of a way to showcase Makoto Furukawa's range and emotion, or emotional range as well, and what he can do if he is basically facing a song that requires a lot of emotion. I do feel like this is one of those performances that leaves a mark quite easily and shows how good he is as a singer. I still feel like this is an underrated or underappreciated song, and it was even featured as the ending theme to the One Punch Man anime series, in which he was the protagonist. But not many people actually paid attention to this song, which is a pity. It is really beautiful. I love the concept. I love the whole approach to melancholy and loneliness in here, and the search for something. I do love it a whole lot, but well, it didn't get the attention that it deserved. Then, things change a whole lot. What happens in this CD when you get to interlude? When you get to interlude, there's something different happening. Once again, the book is here, the pages are being turned, and you notice that a new chapter is starting. And the new chapter changes completely the tone and even the music genres used in this CD. So you have two acts. Think of this CD as two acts. The first act that goes from the very first track up until the 7th track. That is all about jazz, its allure, its elegance, but still the lyrics are quite poignant and at the same time thought-provoking and quite rich, which is surprising because Makoto Furukawa up until then hadn't written lyrics to many songs, and for this CD he did write quite a few. But starting from interlude, which is the 7th track, up until the very end of this CD, which is for Fairytale, you experience rock music. Rock. We're talking about pure rock, emo rock, fun music that also fits well within this CD. The fact that Makoto Furukawa had the care to actually split the CD in two, and making sure that you notice that one chapter is one thing and the other chapter is another thing, which is to say it is at the same time two sides of his passions as a singer or passions as a musician, that he loves jazz music but he also loves rock music and he wants to showcase both. But also because it fits really well with the narrative. It is a fairy tale, but the fairy tale has several acts. You do go through those acts, and you do have that fantasy that begins the CD, or that is basically at the kickoff of the CD, and then you go through the hard truths. You go through the challenges, and the CD actually encompasses that, or basically illustrates that really well when you get to its second part. And it culminates in a beautiful For Fairytale, which is another ballad that is a bit quieter and doesn't have that much going on in there, but it really ties everything up perfectly. You then have Kimama ni Mieru Kai, which is a song that completely changes around things. It is picturesque, which is not something that I was expecting to say when I reviewed this CD. This is a song that plays around with the fiddle. Fiddle is not necessarily an instrument that many people use because can be quite quirky in its sound, and it's not necessarily a sound that is pleasing to listen to. But the fiddle works really well in these, and the song sounds kind of like a throwback to, I should say, 60s type of rock music, the really obscure genres or subgenres. And it is fun. I do enjoy this song a whole lot. I do remember having a lot of fun listening to it because it was such a big contrast to the rest of the CD that I was still trying to process how such a song was making its way to the CD. It is fun. A couple of years later, my opinion of this song is still the same. It is a really fun song. It is a song in which Furukawa plays a lot around with his vocals, but it is a song as well that is trying to do something different, and bringing in the fiddle was a fun addition to this song, although I do know that not many people will enjoy it because it's not that common to find a fiddle in music, and especially male seiyuu music, but it is really fun. Then you have Patos no Katachi, and Patos no Katachi is such a really good song. If you love Latin music, this instrumentalization or the instrumentalization in Patos no Katachi is really the thing that you will love. You have flamenco style type of guitar melodies, or Spanish style, some would say, and you do have the bongos and the cajon playing in the background to create a really nice percussion to this song. And everything that you have in there points out, at least to me, to tango Congo style of music, which is a sub genre of jazz music that is really fun. I do enjoy these kinds of things. It kind of reminds me, and I do not know if you know this artist, about Santana. He's a guitarist from Mexico and is bloody amazing. I've been a fan of his since basically I was born. This was a type of music that I listened to, or that my parents listened to, and I do enjoy a whole lot. That Latin touch that is so fun and incorporates basically elements from many music genres, but mainly rock and jazz music. And it is danceable, but so groovy and tasteful throughout. It is the type of music that I do know that will light up a party and put a smile on someone's face without being obnoxious like EDM, for example, usually is. So I do enjoy this a whole lot. I find the urgent tone of this song and all that is going on to it in the instrumental to be really pleasing to listen to. And of course, Makoto Furukawa's vocals are really amazing in this song. Things change around slightly when you get to Gusha no Choyaku. This is a song that brings in funky guitar riffs, which is yet again something that he was doing for the very first time back then. It is a song that is fast-paced. At times you have shredding guitars, you have a massive bass line, and everything seems to go really well in this song. However, it's not the song that stands out the most to me in this CD, and I still to this day don't listen to this song every time I listen to this CD. It is enjoyable, but for me it ends up being a bit too much at times. Then you have Honshitsumo Makoto Nitsete Nari, which is a song that is made for a jazz club. It is yet again the return to jazz music. So you went through a couple of rock tunes, or funk rock tunes, or traditional rock, or other subgenres, and then you get back to jazz music again. So you were really playing around with mixing a bit of jazz, but in subgenres. You have the Latin jazz influences in Patos no Katachi, and then you have in Honjitsumo Makoto Nisete Nari, you have yet again a classy, exclusive type of sound that is really made for a classy jazz club. And this is the type of music I often tend to write quite vividly the descriptions when I listen to jazz music, because it is really a good music genre to capture emotions and capture settings and really putting you, the listener, in a specific place. And I do find bebop jazz in this case. You have some parts of bebop in this song, although this is I would say, classic jazz type of song. You do have points in this song that make you or give you flashes of different scenes and different settings within this song. It ends up being quite cinematic, especially if you are the type of person that when you listen to music, you start imagining what is surrounding you while you listen to music. I do not know if you are this type of person. I am this type of person. I usually start to get into the song and start to vividly see what I am listening, which is quite fun. And if you have not experienced that, or if you do not experience that, it is quite a unique thing and it is not easy to explain. It's more of a sensory thing, so it is not easy to express. Then you have Kachidoki. Kachidoki, it's yet another turn in the roller coaster, and now you get shredding guitar riffs, really intense drums. It is a fast-paced rock tune with a couple of influences of traditional Japanese music, and it is really fun. It is not something that is innovative. Yes, many say you have done that before. It is basically an overdone music genre or mix, but the very first time that Makoto Furukawa mixed rock with traditional Japanese music, and it was quite entertaining. I do enjoy it a whole lot, and in a way, he gave me those vibes that he would be an awesome rock artist. However, he is also a fantastic jazz artist, so I'm at that point in which I would love to hear him perform rock, but then again, there are many SEIYUU performing rock and not many performing jazz music, so I do prefer him to perform jazz music. But still, if you put out a rock CD, I would be all over it. And the CD, of course, wraps up with For Fairytale. This is a really smooth, slow-paced acoustic song. It really focuses on wrapping up the story for you, of closing that book and stopping that story that you were listening up until now, for you to basically do a summary of what happened and understand what the story was all about. This is a CD that makes you think, if you have the patience to do so, while listening to it. And Makoto Furukawa does give you plenty of opportunities for you to stop and discuss his lyrics, because he does put a lot of effort into basically making those interesting for you to listen to and to dissect them. If you are the type of person that loves to dissect lyrics, I am that type of person. That's why I do enjoy Makoto Furukawa and at the same time Suma Saito's music. It's because it is music that makes me want to dissect the lyrics and try to understand the hidden meanings and the underlying themes that are going on in there. For Fairytale is the perfect way to wrap up this CD. Makoto Furukawa shows a fantastic control over his vocals, but that was something that was not even in discussion here, because he's a really good singer, albeit underrated, and he does have a really fantastic emotional range. I do find him to be, or at least I do find that most people do not enjoy his voice a whole lot, because he's quite the dramatic style of singer. He opens a lot his vowels, he has a lot of vibrato going on in there, he really vocalizes with a lot of power, and for many people that sounds a bit over the top. For me, I do enjoy his voice a whole lot. I do believe that he's a ridiculously technical singer and he deserves more attention than he gets. So that's my 2 cents about basically Makoto Furukawa. Now, when From Fairytale wrapped up, I was more than certain that this was a flawless CD, or near flawless CD. There was a song that was not up to my expectations, but still, this is a near flawless CD. And it is a CD that makes you think while still presenting you everything in a story format. So, From Fairytale has basically 2 acts. It is quite ingenious how Makoto Furukawa wanted to create this CD, craft it, and using introductions or overtures and interludes to welcome you to different parts of the CD and wrapping up everything neatly with a song that sums up everything that happened. And I do find it quite interesting that he took the time to bring in the first part that is more jazz-oriented, that is classy, that is really suggestive at times, and really intense, especially in the pacing of the songs. At the same time that Makoto Furukawa is showcasing his vocal range in full bloom and with a power and precision that is quite impressive. Then when you go to the second act, you find that the sound is more eclectic. You do have rock, you do notice different elements being brought into the song, you do find even ballads in there, you do find rock that has 80s influences. It is a different style of act. The first act may be really classy, the second act plays around with the possibilities of what Makoto Furukawa can do, and it is a really interesting way to showcase a different side to himself as well as a different chapter within this CD. This is a fairy tale after all, and the fairy tale is not perfect, and you do have that beautiful, almost idyllic way in which the CD starts up. But then you have the second act that is really different and presents some challenges, shows some excitement, but still has its emotional moments here and there. And it is really interesting that this is included in the CD, or that this was thought as a concept in the way that the CD was crafted and later on mastered. Of course, Makoto Furukawa wrote lyrics to all songs in this CD, minus Shizuganakute Momodoru Kara, because this was a song that was featured in anime, so it was written by someone else, and Honjitsumo Makoto ni Seiten Nari, which was also a song featured in anime. But everything else that was not featured in anime, Makoto Furukawa wrote lyrics to, and he showed that he is a really awesome lyricist. I've said it countless times, and I do make parallels between Makoto Furukawa and Soma Saito quite a lot, because they are essentially the same style of artist, albeit Makoto Furukawa doesn't compose his songs, and albeit basically Soma Saito is not a jazz artist, but they are essentially, or at their core, they are quite the vivid style of writer or lyricist, and they have a really interesting culture, literary culture, that makes them able to write interesting stories that grip you from start to finish, and stories that actually are more than what they show on a first listen or on a first read. And Makoto Furukawa does that really awesomely, with the addition that he likes to play around with being classy and sexy at the same time, which is something that not many seiyuu play around with, so he does like to do so, and it suits him. At the same time, bebop jazz and Latin jazz make their entrance in this CD, and I love both music genres, and I would listen to those, especially with Makoto Furukawa singing until the end, basically. Speaker, for example, is one of my favorite songs by Makoto Furukawa, and is right there in my top 10 favorite songs by male seiyuu artists, for sure. I do love that song a whole lot, and I do find it to be quite pleasing to listen to. When it comes to ballads, I was expecting more from Makoto Furukawa, not because he didn't sing well, he did sing awesomely, but I wanted more. He does have the potential to sing ballads with so much power and so much technique. He has so much to offer when it comes to vibrato. And now, I'm not talking about when this CD was released in 2020, but now that Furukawa knows how to perform high notes, imagine if he could sing more ballads or ballads with more frequency. It would be amazing. But still, what he gave us in this CD was so much fun and really good. When it comes to the CD as a whole, I do fully recommend it. If you haven't understood so far what I was saying and what my thoughts were about this CD, to sum it all up, I love this CD a whole lot, and I fully recommend you to listen to it, because it is a marvel of composition and a marvel in its innovative or daring style. Because not many seiyuu, basically anyone, was performing jazz music. Makoto Furukawa released a CD that is basically almost all jazz music. He did create a concept around the jazz music that he had, and he created a fairy tale with 2 acts in which you get to listen and basically see unfold 2 different sides of the story, basically 2 sides of Makoto Furukawa as a solo artist, and basically 2 sides of Makoto Furukawa as a lyricist. He's a really good lyricist. Not many people give him credit for that, but he's really a good lyricist. I've said it countless times in my reviews that whenever Makoto Furukawa writes the lyrics to his songs, that song or those songs are the best ones in a specific release, especially if there are songs composed or written by someone else. From Fairytale is a CD that I love a whole lot, that I fully recommend you to check. That is a CD that, even if you do not enjoy jazz music or you do not know what jazz music is, it is a perfect introduction to the genre, because Makoto Furukawa welcomes you with classical jazz or traditional jazz music, then he goes to Latin jazz, he brings in the bebop jazz, which is the faster version of jazz, he does have swing, which is a bit slower and really fancy, and he then brings in the, I wouldn't say at the conga style of, basically it's the conga style of jazz, or a mix of jazz and Latin music. Then you have rock music in the second act, a couple of ballads and acoustic tunes as well. And Makoto Furukawa does go through all of those in a really, really welcoming and easy listening way. You can have a load of fun with those. Even if you are not necessarily a fan of jazz music, you will come to love it because it is really, really fun and really, really fast. If you do enjoy dance music, jazz is basically the father of dance music. It is crazy and it works really, really well with Makoto Furukawa's booming vocals. And of course, if you do like really good stories, if you do like a narrative that grips you from start to finish, and if you enjoy cinematic style of CDs that you have to listen to from start to finish, you cannot skip songs and you cannot shuffle songs because it doesn't make any sense if you shuffle or skip songs. If you love to listen to CDs from start to finish and you love to experience the stories from start to finish, this CD is easily one of the best that you can get. Makoto Furukawa really tackled a really interesting concept in here. Decadence is in full bloom in this CD, but you have a lot of allure, a lot of passion, and a lot of want to do something better yet. So I do love this CD a whole lot, and I can't recommend it enough. And I believe that still, with everything that I said and everything I wrote when I reviewed this CD, I still do not make it full justice because this CD is bloody amazing. You need to listen to it to understand just how good this CD is. One thing that I have seen a whole lot of people saying is that I do not check Makoto Furukawa's music because the characters that he voices I do not enjoy. Well, he is not the characters that he voices, so why not give him a chance? He is really a fantastic singer. Many people acknowledge that, specialists in Japan do acknowledge that he is really a fantastic singer and he doesn't get the attention that he deserves. So do not feel tied to the characters that he voices. Even if you do not enjoy the characters that he voices, do check out the music that he releases because he is not the characters he voices. And the music that Makoto Furukawa releases is bloody amazing and deserves your full attention and perhaps, if you enjoy it, your full support. Now tell me, have you ever listened to this album? And if you have, which is your favorite song and why? Let me know in the comments on YouTube and share with me albums you would give everything to experience again for the very first time. I will be picking some of your answers to create an episode covering those CDs. And remember, leave your comments as complex or as simple as they may be, and you can be featured on upcoming episodes of SEIYUU Lounge. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss the hand that feeds HQ's weekly mail SEIYUU and music-related content, hit the subscribe button. And if you are listening to this episode on a podcast listening platform, please consider following the podcast and leaving a review. Leaving a review is really simple and helps other people find this podcast and fall in love with male SEIYUU artists and 2D groups. I'll return next week with another episode of SEIYUU Lounge. Thank you for listening and see you guys around.